You can go and Google what that is, but I'm going to give you a little behind the curtain look because, I entered that fray for a little bit, for 3 months. So above that, when you become a member of parliament and you don't live in the Western Cape, or specifically in Cape Town, that you get a once-off fee to that. You get a once-off payment to establish yourself, and that's 25,000 rand that you get, and that is now to pay for furniture, to go and live in the parliamentary village, or whether it's to move your furniture. In essence, you just get the amount paid into your bank account. So you don't have to give them slips. You don't have to give them anything. You just get 25,000 rand in your first salary. Then, of course, you get the parliamentary housing for people that don't live in Cape Town. Now, that could be a 2-bedroom or a 3-bedroom house, and of course, your family can come and live with you, or your better half. Now, on top of that, you get tools of trade. Now, tools of trade gets renewed every 2 years. So every 2 years, once you have the current tools of trade that you have, you can keep that. You can give it to a family member, or you can go and sell it on Take-A-Lot, or on Facebook Marketplace. But the value of that is 75,000 rand. So you get a laptop. You can choose for a high-end HP or an Acer or a MacBook. It's the same with the cell phone. You can choose an iPhone or a Samsung high-end phone. You get a tablet, and once again, a Microsoft tablet or an Apple tablet. And then, of course, all of them are loaded with data. So you get on whatever service provider you're on, so whether it's MTN or Vodacom or Cell C, you get the VIP package, and usually that is 5,000 minutes a month and between 50 to 100 gigabytes a month on your phone. So you don't have to pay for anything when it comes to data or airtime. Then you get 75 flights as a member of parliament, and that makes sense because you have to fly from one part of the country to the other, whether it's on oversight or not. But what a lot of people don't know is the spouses get flights too. It adds up to roughly 25 flights for a partner, and then 2 flights per year per extra family member, up to 2 family members that taxpayers are paying for. Then, of course, you get PARMED, which is the Parliament's medical aid. Now, you can't choose to not use PARMED, and it is a very how can I put it? It covers a lot more than your normal medical aid. It goes up to 300% above the going rate. So, specialists that usually charge 150% or 200% above the normal rate, don't worry about it. You're covered. You can go and get a beautiful pair of veneers, and the taxpayers will pay for that. Now, you pay 6,500 rand a month for that medical aid. So it is a lot when you start off with. But every year that you are a member of parliament, that amount decreases and the government subsidizes the rest. Ultimately, if you are in parliament for long enough, that fee goes down by more than 50%. And that stays with you for the rest of your life. So if you're only a member for one term as a member of parliament, after 5 years, you can get a reduced fee of 50%, and then that is that for the rest of your life, which is obviously also something that taxpayers have to fund. But here's the kicker, and this is something that a lot of people don't know. If you are on PARMED, you move up to the top of the list for organ donations. Yes. So if something happens to you whilst you are a member of parliament, if there is this little Jannie that needs a new heart transplant, sak Jannie, ons worry nie oor jou nie. You weet, sien so 'n tune kort in die hart, and then they just move you to the top of the organ donors list. Yes, and you can go and verify that if you don't believe me. But that's quite intense. Then, of course, the pension fund, and this is something that I found fascinating, and I will be open with how much I received. So I was a member of parliament for 3 months. 3 months. Eventually, when I was kicked out, and a couple of months later, I get an email saying, well, where can we pay your pension fund over? And I was like, 3 months. What am I going to get? 75,000 rand is what I received for 3 months as my pension. So I then went and I worked it out. And the way that the pension fund is structured is that you put in roughly about 5,000 rand, and the government doubles that. So you put in 5,000 rand, and the government puts in 10,000 rand. So they double what you are contributing. So over a 5-year period, you can get between 1.2 to 1.5 million rand, depending also on how the investment is doing. So one term, above the salary, you get an extra 1.2 to 1.5 million rand saying thank you for being such a good soldier. I mean, are you shocked already, Chris? Are you... All right, and the best is yet to come. You also get 1,500 rand a month for sundries, for maybe your internet because you have to work from home, or you need to get that new power bank because you're always on your phone in parliament. So that is also what you get a month. Then meals at parliament. Die mense eet lekker daar in parliament. Net by the way, ek weet die mense in die comments sê 'n bietjie Ronaldo, jy moet meer Afrikaans praat. Wel, ek probeer. Het een iemand het gesê Ronaldo praat Afrikaans met 'n Engelse aksent en ek moet vir jou sê, nee, ek praat Afrikaans en dis hoe ek praat. Ek kom van die baie af. But anyway, meals at parliament is cost price. So you can get a home cooked meal, and that'll cost you about 75 rand. Now, where would you get a home-cooked meal for that price? So they do 2 meals a day within Parliament, where you can go and get food. You can get breakfast and you can get a late, let's call it a brunch, or early dinner, if you will. And that is pretty much cost price. And then there's also a bar. Now, I'm not a drinker, so I didn't really go into the bar, but I'm only assuming that a beer is probably very cheap there. A lot of people would like to go there and watch the Springboks play, because that would probably be a very cheap bowl that they'll have to get. And then, of course, the one thing that also shocked me is the food and drinks that you get at committee meetings. Now, I understand when it is the sitting of the plenary that perhaps there are food available because that is long hours. But when you get this, when you sit in a committee meeting, there is always like little wraps available, some cool drinks for you, some hot coffee or some delicious snacks for you in between. I mean, that must also rack up because if we've got 400 members of parliament, you can just imagine that bill must be substantial every month. Then you get a subscription to Press Reader. I can understand that, but that is also with a couple of $1,000. And if you times that by 400, once again, you see how this impacts people. Lastly, and I think this was the most outrageous thing, I want to show you this little card over here. This little white card is a parking card at the airports. Now, this is preloaded with 100,000 Rand, and you can renew this every single year. So every year, you can go and get or ask them to reload this for 100,000 Rand. Now, 100,000 Rand times 400 MPs is 40 million Rand a year just for undercover parking for parliamentarians. Tell me that is not outrageous. It's absolutely insane.
You okay, I'm a little speechless now, but let me just think what I want to ask you next. The opulent lifestyles of some of the African National Congress leaders, do they realize what personal sanctions would mean? Can you tell them? Because I've been really flippant about it and defiant, as if though it's not going to bother them.
So yes, I think the ANC and even some people within the EFF and whomever has sang songs about killing people, they need to realize that they think that sanctions are going to hit the country, but in actual fact, sanctions are going to come for the individuals, and we've heard this multiple times. And at the moment, there's also this one thing going through the United States Congress in order to sanction individual members of Parliament, and even outside of Parliament. It could be people that negatively spoke about the United States and have also done things that America and South Africa considers not to be acceptable. So just some of the things that can happen is an asset freeze, meaning that if they have any secret bank accounts overseas that deals with dollars, that assets could be frozen. Then, of course, you've got the transaction bans, meaning that if they use Visa or MasterCard, the Americans can decide you're not going to use our technology. And therefore, if you think about it, most banks in South Africa use Visa and MasterCard. And then, of course, American Express is another one. So they could be limited quite severely by not being able to get a card to use, which means that it's pretty much they're going to be put in a situation where they can't transact in any way, shape, or form. Then we've also got travel bans. And this isn't just to the United States. This is any of the partners of the United States, trade partners, that pretty much means the entire UK, it means Australia, it means, of course, the United States. So, and then, of course, people are asking, will this impact them in Dubai? It could be because the United States have got relationships with Dubai. Then there's also secondary sanctions, and this is the one I think that is really going to hit the cadres. And it's secondary sanctions and sectoral sanctions. Now, the big thing here is that if, for instance, let's use an example. Let's say the ANC cadre or the EFF cadre suddenly goes, okay, well, I can't bank. Let me try to get a bank account in Namibia. Now, the secondary sanction means that that bank, if they use Visa or MasterCard or American Express for their card issuing and for the SWIFT payments that are used, if the United States finds out that this bank has given a card to this cadre, then they can put those sanctions on those banks as well, which in essence means that they are blacklisting the individual, but they will blacklist the individuals or the organizations or institutions that go against the sanctions that they use when it comes to American technology or American software, etc., etc. So it's going to be a very tough time, and I think that would be the thing, ironically, that would actually put South Africa on the correct path again.